to a lot of museums, and like sometimes I really like the artwork, especially this work like that I've seen a lot in the like art books or something. But sometimes when I go to the museum, like modern art museum, and see some like bloody pieces, they have a lot of blood and sexual images on the pieces. I feel really uncomfortable looking at those pieces, and I could appreciate it as an artwork because the artist probably like thought of like all the like context beforehand, but I don't know, it didn't really aesthetically like appeal to me, so I didn't really like it. So I didn't really care about those pieces, but I just felt like I just wonder like why this museum invite this artist's work into this museum and disgrace the value of the museum. I don't know. Maybe it's just I just didn't have no knowledge, background knowledge about the artwork and the pieces.
What is modern art all about?
So what is modern art all about? From a art historical background, modern art is a very specific moment in art history where artists are interested in art being neutral and autonomous, and art being for art's sake. And then you start seeing paintings that are non-representational, paintings that don't portray anything but speak of paintings as paint on surface, on flat surface.
When people ask what contemporary art is all about, it's like they're locating it as some like giant in the hill that like is scary and comes down every now and then to stomp on the town people. And contemporary art it's you, it's me, it reflects our time. It just does it in such a way that might not be so obvious to someone who doesn't think about a lot of the content that's being perpetuated in the work constantly, which is what a lot of contemporary artists do. I mean, they spend a lot of their time dedicated to thoughts around their work, or thoughts around culture, or thoughts around things that are really interesting and personal to them, or they feel is very important in the world, and then find ways of visualizing that. So what can people take away from it?
Yeah.
I hope that any good art that one consumes and experiences on some level can reflect something, whether it's a thought or an idea, an experience, even of an artist that has made something and spent time and felt the need to invest their energy into this thing that people can connect with. Another human existed and did something that mattered to them, and hopefully have some kind of connection, at least on that basic level. And maybe think about themselves and what they're interested in, what they find valuable, and what they invest time in. So that'd probably be the most general way I can answer that question, unless it was a very particular audience that we're talking about.
In a professional art field, like artists, curators, and critics, they have a kind of tendency to want to be look very serious, intelligent, smart. It's like about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So whether or not it is they are pretending to be, or they really are, limiting the audience, like kind of there's some invisible barrier between we and them. So what do you think about this?
That invisible barrier might not be so invisible. I think it's really there. It's the same way on Wall Street. You know, there are different types of practices and ways of behaving that if you went down to Wall Street in flannel and cut-off jeans, you would feel very out of place. It's really meant to foster an environment where those who are initiated or those who are meant to participate. And that's art with a big A. That follows a very particular line of discourse that you can find easily what that is by looking at an art history book.
I think that's definitely like a huge dilemma for people who work in the art profession. Everyone has equal access to art, which is a total fiction. Museums and galleries have always been drawing a specific audience. I think it's it's definitely a desire for artists and for everyone who works in art to want to gain a broader audience, but at the end of the day, it's self-selective and it's selective.
Contemporary art, in a way, is like being a fan of baseball. You know, you can walk up to it, you can kind of watch the game, but the more you know about it, the more you're going to enjoy. When you start to understand who the artists are, what they're interested in, what these different nuances of the art world are. And so it can begin in taking an art appreciation class, or just reading a book on art, an art movement, or a time period, or even a book on contemporary art. There's very few really good ones out there, though, in contemporary art.